du meine Arbeit für richtig hältst, ob du glaubst, dass ich fleißig gewesen bin, dass ich gearbeitet habe, dass ich mich in diesen Jahren für dich eingesetzt habe, dass ich anständig meine Zeit verwendet habe im Dienste meines Volkes. Gib du jetzt deine Stimme ab. Wenn ja, dann tritt für mich ein, so wie ich für dich eingetreten bin.
Well, good afternoon, and this is a wake-up call to America. This is Stuart Rhine and the Rhine Report on Civil War Part 2 as the crisis unfolds and extends using threats to voting rights through gerrymandering, canceling mail-in voting, voter suppression, including the possible seizure and misuse of voting machines, and worse yet, the immediate threat of the military being used against civilians, as we see from the present occupation of Washington, D.C. and California, in contravention of the Posse Comitatus Act and its constitutional prohibitions. Trump, take it from me, is counting on an escalation of the crisis he is actually creating as his provocation to justify a takeover of all American governance by fiat and by military force. And that explains his deployments and threats of future deployments in a variety and host of mostly blue cities across our land, using the cooperation of several of the southern states' governors willing to allow their National Guardsmen to get federalized. And if courts keep granting him executive office deference, then he will be enabled to make any wild and insane false cry of wolf in the cloak of a national security or national emergency issue that does not actually exist except in fantasy land. However, if he formulates and instigates a democratic, economic, and social crisis that finally gets our dull and vacuous population off its collective ass and into the streets, then the courts will surely allow him to maintain control over our civilian population, making any possible uprising of the people totally impossible. What he and his regime are doing is not, as the pundits claim, simply performative. It has strategy, tactics, and a clear direction at its heart. And this is the real state of affairs that the pundits avoid addressing, just as they have done ever since 2016, when I began to make these podcasts that very few people have actually seen. But I do agree with Steve Schmidt and the warning.
It is Monday, the 25th of August, and the curfew in Washington, D.C., the capital of the home of the free and the land of the brave, is 11 p.m. This is the warning. It does reason to ask, what happens if you want to be out after 11 p.m.? Like if you wanted to walk your dog, or even, God forbid, get a slice of pizza, or even a beer. No, Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth and Kristi Noem and Kash Patel don't approve. And so they have decreed that no American shall go outside after 11 p.m. so that we can be great again and Washington can be crime-free. Which again, here's the deal. What Donald Trump is offering, like all Trump deals, is premised on a titanic lie that was understood as such all the way back at the beginning, when Benjamin Franklin warned that any people who would give up a little bit of liberty for some security deserve neither. And so this is what the blanket of federal security looks like. Tanks at the train station, checkpoints on the main drags. The soldiers are armed against the people who they come from. They are carrying weapons of war in America's cities. And Donald, his sycophants, his corrupt minions, having seen the success, are preparing to do it in Chicago and in Baltimore. Except this time, he won't be operating in a federal district without a governor, without United States senators. He'll be doing it within America's states. And remember, it is the states who created the Union. Now, each state, under the Second Amendment, has the right to maintain a well-regulated militia. And what Donald Trump is threatening to do is to suspend that Second Amendment right, along with fundamentally the Fourth Amendment, the First Amendment, the Eighth Amendment, and the 14th Amendments. It's very troubling, and people have a right to be frightened because Trump is about to federalize National Guard troops in states and turn them against the people, and or worse, to take National Guard federalized from MAGA states, donated, and send them as occupying forces into Democratic-led states, which is, in this digital age, a type of digital Fort Sumter. Although the guns are real, the bullets are real, and the federal occupation is real. And all of it built on the architecture of what Joseph Goebbels called the big lie, and his observation that the bigger the lie, the more apt people are to believe it.
They don't acknowledge it, and they say, we don't need him, freedom, freedom, he's a dictator, he's a dictator. A lot of people are saying, maybe we like a dictator. I don't like a dictator. I'm not a dictator. I'm a man with great common sense, and I'm a smart person.
And so here we are. Washington stands under a military occupation upon the order of Donald Trump, based on the delusions and the lies of Donald Trump. Now, a Fox News viewer may believe the lies of Fox News. They may believe that Portland, Oregon was burned to the ground several years ago, but that does not make it so, does not make it real. And the authority and the abuses of power, the abuses of office that the American people are witnessing should be understood always as a prelude of what can be done to you. Speak out against Trump, you get audited. Speak out against Stephen Miller, what? Pulled out of the customs line if you try to come back into the country? Everywhere, it seems, there's a new type of law and order where so long as you're powerful, you can take as you please and do as you want to whomever you please, so long as you love Trump enough. Is that what the rule of law means, the rule of Trump? That in order to start a business, to get a bank loan, to open an account, you have to have the right politics, you have to have the right thoughts in your head. You have to have the right beliefs, the right religion, the right faith.
We don't take an oath to a country. We don't take an oath to a tribe. We don't take an oath to a religion. We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator. We don't take an oath to an individual. We take an oath to the Constitution, and we take an oath to the idea that it's America, and we're willing to die to protect it.
How long will it be before we see the first MAGA congressman suggest that for our security and to clear things up, those men with guns and those men with masks ought to be taking an oath to the man whose name is embossed in gold on the back of their vehicles? Donald Trump, their mad king. Look and read these posts, these musics, these fulminations, vituperations. What are they? How do you judge them? They are insane. Look at his swollen ankles, his failing heart, unable to pump the blood efficiently throughout his corpulent and decaying body. Look at the makeup on the hands. Look at the Oval Office. And look at the plan for this ballroom and his patio, where he walked out and tested the new sound system at the People's House after recently daring, as any great leader might, to answer some questions from the rooftop. A blanket of insanity, of authoritarianism, with a uniquely Americanized, absurdist face is descending. And there is no part of the American mountain upon which the snow will ultimately not fall. And before it's too late, it would be best to wake up to that reality. Something is being stolen from all of us right now. It's being taken by men with malice in their hearts and faithlessness towards the United States. What an awful era. What low men and women. But there is no lower American than that which will not stand up and fight back against this. The wrongs being committed in plain sight. Rise up against it. Stand up against it.
And we're going on with a continuation of the militarization of this society in preparation for a complete and utter takeover of the government by the Trump MAGA Nazi fascist coalition, which already controls large parts of the government, but this continued escalation in the militarization side of things makes certain that there can be no civil unrest that can rise to a revolution or rebellion against this tyranny and this destruction of democracy. Make that clear. He is provoking trouble in all the major cities. He's anticipating staying in office no matter how, no matter why, no matter what. And if it means using the military, that's precisely what he's prepping us for. Thank you.